Today I'm going to show you how to make this cube bracelet. This is a little bit more of an advanced video, but it's still very simple. If you just follow it step by step, you should be fine. But maybe if it's your very first bead weaving project, you may want to try something else first. But this is what we're going to make. We're going to use the cubes that were in the Spring Splendor treasure bag. However, I have the cubes on my website, and you can also substitute other beads for this particular pattern, and we will discuss that in the next section of the video so that you can make this whether you have the treasure bag or not, because the only thing I'm using from the treasure bag is the clasp, which you can use any clasp you want, and the cubes. So anyway, that's what that looks like. Let me take this off. I will put a link for my website in the description box below if you want to get some of these crystals I'm using, and you can use any color scheming you want. Let's get you close so you can see what the units look like. It's really, really pretty. I just love it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with this project. Okay, for this project today, we will be using, from the Spring Splendor treasure bag, the 10mm cubes. So you have some of these little cubes in your bag. If you do not have a treasure bag, you can still do this. I have some of these on my website. I'll post a link for it in the description box beneath the video player, or you can use a smaller cube. So like if you have some 6mm cubes, you'll probably get away with using that too. And it might even look cuter because it will all be dainty. Just a little bit different look. You'd have to adjust the length of your bracelet by making more units, but you could probably still get away with that. Or an 8x6 rondelle, something of some substantial size, so that the stitch itself holds the bead where it's supposed to be. But you can do this project. You don't have to have the treasure bag. Then we're going to be using toggle clasp from the treasure bag. Adding to the treasure bag, we're going to need a 3x2 rondelle crystal. This is half purple, and you can also probably use a 3mm bicone or something very small that you have in your stash that you would like to use. You could even, where we place these little crystals, you could even probably get away with an 8/0 seed bead. So you could just use a different color seed bead or just another of your silver or purple, and that would work also. Then we're going to need some 8/0 seed beads in 2 colors. So I'm using the Frosted Sugar Plum in the Toho line, and I am also using the galvanized permanent finish aluminum. And then we're going to use 15/0, which is also a galvanized permanent finish aluminum in the Toho line that I am using. We're going to need just a few 11/0 seed beads just to do the clasping area. And so I'm also using the galvanized permanent finish aluminum for that. Then you're going to need a small beading needle, so a size 12 is probably the best since we're using 15/0 seed beads. And then you're going to need some thread, of course. I'm using Nanofil 10-pound. You can also use an 8-pound or a 6-pound fire line. You want to stay with a very small diameter of thread because you're going to travel through these beads quite a bit, and you want to be able to do that easily. So let's go ahead and get started with this project. First, you're going to put onto your needle at least a wingspan of thread. A wingspan is when you spread your arms out to your sides like they're wings and you're going to fly away. You measure from the fingertips of one arm, the length of that arm, all the way across your chest, the length of the second arm, and to the fingertips on that arm. That is a wingspan. You will probably have to extend your fire line or your nanofil during this process. If you do not know how to extend your thread, I will post a video in the description box in the description box beneath the video player, so that you can reference that and learn how. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting onto our needle our 8/0 seed beads with 15/0s in between. We're going to alternate the colors of our 8/0s, and we're going to start with, I'm starting with the silver here. whatever color you have, just designate which one you want to start with. I'm going to start with silver, and then I'm going to pick up two 15-0 seed beads, and then I'm going to pick up a purple 8-0, and then two 15-0 seed beads, and a silver 8-0, and two 15-0 seed beads, and a purple 8-0, and two 15-0 seed beads. And I'll show you what I have. So this is what I have on my needle: 8-0, two 15-0s, 8-0 of the second color, two 15-0s, 8-0 of the first color, two 15-0s, 8-0, and two 15-0s, just like this. Then, let me rearrange my camera just a little bit here. We're going to bring these down to the end of our thread. You don't have to leave a long tail, but you need to leave enough to hold on to and to ensure that you can tie a knot. Now, we're going to go up through the first bead we put on. So from the tail side, we're going to go up through this first 8-0 seed bead, and we're going to pull the thread through, holding onto that 8-0, holding onto the tail, until you have a little circle of beads like this. Now, we're just going to sew back through all of these beads. So I'm coming out of this 8-0 here, and I'm just going to start sewing through. My thread and stuff is going to get loose, so just make sure that you have enough tail so that it doesn't slide through, and just pull your thread through as you go along, and then we'll tighten when we are finished. So just continue sewing all the way around. Now I have two more 15-0s to go into here, and then I will be right where my tail and my working thread meet. So I'm going through these last two 15-0s here. This is what I have. I'm going to tie these through these two threads together. And my words are just going to just blend into one big word, I guess. Alright. So one little knot here. Make sure it goes down between your beads. So you want it to go down between that 15-0 and that 8-0 seed bead right there. Then we're going to go into this 8-0 seed bead here. Now, this is the base of our unit. We're just going to put an embellishment on both sides, and that will make a round unit, so a double-sided unit, so that as you wear this bracelet, this can turn, it can do whatever. It's more of a rope look. So we're going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead. Wait a minute, we're blurry here. I don't know why we're blurry. There we go. So we've got a 15-0 seed bead, and then we're going to pick up a 3x2 rondelle. You could also use an 8-0 seed bead here if you'd like. And then a 15-0 seed bead. Excuse me, I have some 11-0s in there. I apologize. Let me get this straightened up here. I don't know what the heck that's about. Okay, 15-0 rondelle, 15-0. I'm coming out of this side of the 8-0. I'm going to go into the opposite 8-0 on the same side. So right here, I'm going to go into this 8-0 seed bead. Now this first unit is a little bit floppy and hard to deal with, so I hope I do this nice and gracefully. I'm going to pull this through. So I'm just holding on to the unit, pulling these 3 beads down on top of the unit like this. Get you closer and you can see what I've done. Now I'm going to pick up another 15-0 seed bead, and I'm coming out of this side of the 8-0 now. I'm going to go into the crystal again, right here. I'm going to hold on to it, and yes, I know I'm covering it, but you have to hold on to it and pull your bead down. It's a tiny unit, so just hold on to it the best you can, and then pick up a 15-0 seed bead, and we're going to go into the opposite side of the 8-0 from which we started. So we started over here. We're going to go into this side of this 8-0. Just like that. Everything's going to get all weird looking. That's okay, because after you put that 15-0 in place, you can pull your thread. You can make sure your 15-0s are laying in the proper spot, so they should be beneath this 8-0 and above the rondelle, and just laying nice and neat, just like this. Then we're coming out of this 8-0, we're going to turn our unit over, give a nice tug, make sure we have a good amount of tension on that last embellishment so that it doesn't get loose, and then pick up a 15-0, a rondelle, and a 15-0, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. So we're coming out of this 8-0, we're going to go into this 8-0 on the same side from which we're coming out of this one. So we're going to go into this one. Now, these little 8-0s can be in your way, or excuse me, the little 15-0s can be in your way trying to get into the 8-0. So you just kind of have to fish around a little bit, push them out of the way, like this, and then pull this down. I'm very close right now, I know, but this is a tiny unit, and I want you to see what I'm doing. So I'm pulling that on top there, just like that. And then I'm going to pick up another 15-0 seed bead, and I'm coming out of this side of the 8-0 now, so I go into the crystal, hold on to that crystal, hold on to your unit, pull that 15-0 down, make sure it goes into the proper spot, because sometimes they'll tangle around, do weird things. Then pick up your 15-0, and now we have to go into the opposite side of the 8-0 from which we started. So we started on this side, now we're going to go into this side. And we're just going to go through that. If you go through it at an angle, you can usually get through it pretty easily. I'm going to put my thumb and finger over my piece here, and I'm just going to pull through. Pull everything down nice and tight, just like that. And this is what you should look like. It should be just a little round unit, just like that. And now we're coming out where our tail is. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut that tail down a little bit. We're going to put our clasping on, and then we will begin our next unit. So let me back off just a little here. Let's cut this down. I'm going to leave a little tag of it, and as soon as I put my clasping on, I will then burn that down. So you can either use a thread zapper or a lighter. And now you can see I'm coming out of the top of this 8-0 seed bead right here. See that? Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then we're going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead, and we're going to drop this down to the 8-0 we're coming out of, just like that. Now we're going to pick up our clasp, and I'm going to go ahead and use the round end of my clasping, and I'm going to bring this down. And then we are going to go back through this 8-0 seed bead and only the 8-0. So hold on to your clasp, hold on to the 8-0, pull your thread. My TV is loud. I need to turn that down. I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't think about it. Now I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and I am going to go through the opposite side of the 8-0 from which I started. So you can see it's coming out on this side. I'm going to go into this side right here. And just the 8-0. So I have to target that just like that and go through that 8-0. Pull this down. And this is what we should have. We're going to sew through this one more time so that we can secure it, and then we will sew through it another time off camera. So I am coming out of this 8-0 seed bead right here. I'm going to go up into the 11-0, the 8-0 above it, and through my clasping, and pull this. Then I'm going to go down into the 8-0 and into the 11-0 underneath it on this side. Pull this through, and then I am going to go into, now you've got all these little 15-0s and things. I'm going to make sure that last embellishment is tight, and then go into this 8/0 seed bead here, right here. Okay, so this is what you should have. I'm going to go ahead and sew through it one more time off camera, and if your little embellishment on the top is a little loose, I'll show you how to tighten that up. But you should have nice tension before you start going through your clasp. But anyway, let's go ahead and go through this clasping one more time and we'll be back. Okay, so I have sewed back through my clasping one more time, and now I am coming out of that 8/0 seed bead that we attached the clasping to, and to get to the other end to start our next unit, we're going to go through the embellishment. It's easier to travel through the embellishment than it is around the side. If you can travel around the side and you'd rather do that, that's fine. But because we're using a small thread, we can travel back through and not make our embellishment look too funny. Sometimes if you're using a real clear crystal and you travel through it too many times with your thread, it will look funny. So what we're going to do is we're coming out of this 8/0, we're going to go into this 15/0 here, and then I'm going to go into the 15/0 diagonal, just like this. And this is going to tighten my little embellishment a little bit more too. Just like that. Now my embellishment is much tighter. I go through this bottom 8/0 in our original part right here. You see this little bottom 8/0? We're going to go through it. So pull this through. And I've got a knot in my thread, so let me fix that. There we go. And now we are ready for our next embellishment. First, I'm going to just get rid of this little tag of thread here. I'm just going to get my lighter and get very close to it, but not on it. Don't burn it. Just melt it down in there so that it rolls up and goes down in your beads. But you don't want to burn any of the other threads either. So don't light it on fire. Just get it close. And this is what this looks like now. That we're coming out of this 8/0 on the bottom of the unit here, we're going to make our next unit. We're going to share this 8/0 as part of our base unit. So instead of picking up a silver one first, we're going to pick up 2 15/0s, and then we're going to pick up our second color, which is my sugar plum, and then 2 15/0s, and then a silver 8/0, 2 15/0s, and then a purple 8/0, and 2 15/0s. And this is what you should have. 2 15/0s, 8/0, 2 15/0s, 8/0, 2 15/0s, 8/0, and 2 15/0s. Then we're going to go into the opposite side of the 8/0 we're coming out of in this unit. So just go into the opposite side. All your beads should pretty much be out of your way. It's just a tiny unit, but it's easy to get through. It's just maybe hard for you to see on film here or on video. Now I've pulled this around into a circle. I'm going to back off just slightly so I stay in camera, and I'm going to sew around this entire unit just to make sure it's secure. So I'm going to go into all the beads I just put on, making sure I don't skip any. I'll go a few beads at a time. So I'll do my 15/0s and then my 8/0. And just pull it through. All the way around. Get that last 15/0 there. Oh, come here, you guys. Okay, pull this through. And then into the 8/0 again that we started in. Make sure you don't go into any of the 15/0s on either side, just into that 8/0, just like that. Now I'm going to get close again so you can see. And now we have another circle, and we're going to put our embellishment on. So we're going to pick up a 15/0, then we're going to pick up a crystal and a 15/0. And we're going to go from this side of this 8/0 into the same side on the opposite 8/0. So right here, just kind of move those 15/0s out of your way, hold on to it, pull your embellishment down. Make sure your circle has good tension before you do this. And then pick up another 15-0, go back into the crystal, and just the crystal, just like this. Put your thumb and your finger together, pull your thread through. That will keep you from destroying your whole unit as you do this. And what happens, let me get you close, is a lot of times these 15-0s will get kind of weird. So just pull it and arrange it until it's right up underneath that little crystal like that. And then pick up a 15-0 and go back into the opposite side of the 8-0 we started in, making sure you don't get any 15-0s or anything on either side, and pull your 15-0 down until it's in the proper position right between the 8-0 and the crystal, just like that. Then turn your piece over. Give a nice little tug so that that embellishment is very tight, because you do not want it to be loose. And then we're going to put the same embellishment on this side of our unit. So pick up a 15-0, a 3x2, and a 15-0. Just like this. And we're going to go into the same side of the opposite 8-0. So we're coming out of this side of this one, we go into this side of this one. Just go at an angle, you can get through a lot better. Make sure you don't get any 15-0s on either side. Pull this down, push it over the top, and tighten it and position it. Make sure that your 15-0s look nice. Pick up another 15-0, go through this little crystal here, just like this. I'm going to put my thumb and my finger together over it so I can pull it through, pop it down, make sure it's in the right spot, just like that. And then I'm going to pick up a 15-0, and I'm going to go into the 8-0 between the units here. So right into this one here. Now this is where my 15-0 gets stuck all the time. It's the last 15-0 you put in. So just make sure that you get it nice and tight and positioned correctly. Make sure your embellishment is nice and neat looking. And then we're going to go through the embellishment again to get down to the bottom. So I go into the 15-0 here, the crystal, and then the 15-0 at the diagonal here. It's just easier to get through that way. 15-0, crystal, 15-0. And then I pull my thread through gently, tighten and straighten everything up, go through the 8-0, and then give it one more little tug. That will pull everything back into place, and this is what it should look like. It's a really pretty little round unit. It's kind of rope-ish. Looks really nice. Now, we're going to add a big cube here. Now, you could conceivably use a smaller bead here, as long as it's flat enough on the top to accommodate the 8-0s and the stitching we're going to do. So if you want to use, you could probably get away with a 6mm. I would think a 4 might be too small, but you could get away with a 6mm. You can try a 4. I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll work. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead. I'm going to use the purple one, and I'm going to drop it down to my units I've already created. Then I'm going to go through my cube. Let me back off just a little so you can see a little better. And I'm going to drop this cube down, just like this. The cube's all dirty. I have to wash it. Anyway, then we're going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead, and of the purple, and a silver 8-0 and a purple. So I have my 3 colors on here, just like this. I'm going to drop these down to the cube. Then I'm going to go back through the cube, and just the cube, not the 8-0 on the other side. Let's get in a little closer again, and I'm going to pick up this cube. Get these beads out of my way. Pick up this cube, hold on to it, and pull all these beads all the way down until everything tightens up, cinches up towards the piece, and now I'm just coming out of the cube. Now I'm going to pick up an 8-0, my purple 8-0, to finish this side of the unit here. So I have to go into the 8-0 I'm coming out of, that I started the entire thing in on the opposite side, right here. I'm going to pick this up and pull this 8/0 down until it pops right next to that first 8/0. Now we're going to sew through this entire thing because this is a big heavy crystal and it needs some support, and you want to make sure through crystals that you always have double thread just to make sure that it doesn't break. So we're coming out of this 8/0 right here. We're going to go into the 8/0 on this side, through the cube, and then into the purple 8/0 on this side, just like this, and pull it through. Tighten everything quite tight, make sure there's no slack. Go into this 8/0 here that's sticking out. Go into the 8/0 here on this side now, up through the cube and into the 8/0 on the other side from which we started, right here. Pull, make sure everything's tight, and then go through the 8/0 we attached to, right here. This is what this should look like. Now I'm going to go through this 8/0, the cube, come down through this 8/0 and up through this one, just to travel back through and get down to where I can do my next portion. Now make sure as you come through the cube that you slide through one of those purple 8/0s on the other side. You have to manipulate it a little bit, make sure you come through it. Otherwise you have to go underneath it to get through and it kind of boggles things up. So just make sure you come through one of those beads and then go into the 8/0 sticking out right here. Arrange everything, make it look nice. Make sure you have good tension. I'm just trying to get my 8/0 to stand there, right? Just like that. Okay, now we're going to make our next unit like these. We'll make 2 of those and then we'll put on another crystal. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 2 15/0s because we're coming out of an 8/0. So we're going to start with our 15/0s. Then we're going to use the next color. So we have a silver one here. We're going to use the purple one. Then we're going to use 2 15/0s and then alternate colors. So we'll do the silver, 2 15/0s, and a purple, and 2 15/0s. So you want to make sure you have 3 8/0s with 15/0s on either side of them, just like this. Then we're going to go back into the bead we're coming out of on the opposite side and pull this down into a circle like this. So through the circle, again, to make sure that it is secure. So we're going to go through a few beads at a time and just work our way around till we get back to that 8/0 that we started in. Just make sure you don't miss any of your 15/0s or your unit will pull really strange. And then go back into that 8/0 that we started in, right there. And this is what we've got. Now we're going to pick up a 15/0. We're going to pick up a crystal. We're going to pick up a 15/0, and we're going to go straight across into the 8/0 on the opposite side here. So we're just going to go into this 8/0 right here, just like this. Hold on to the unit, pull the crystal and 15/0 down until it lays on top of your unit, just like this. Then pick up a 15/0, go back into the crystal right here, just like this. Hold on to it by putting your thumb and your finger together, pull that 15/0 down, pop it into place, arrange everything. And it gets kind of funky looking until you put the last 15/0 in, and that's okay. And we can also tighten it up at that point too. Pick up your next 15/0, go into the opposite side of the 8/0 we're attaching to, right here. Now this is where I can straighten everything out, tighten it, make sure it looks good, and then turn my unit over. And then we'll put an embellishment on this side, 15O, crystal, 15O, go into the opposite 8O in the same side you're coming out of the bead you're coming out of. So go into this one here, just like this. And I'm going to hold on to my unit, pull my beads down, and bring them on top of the unit. Arrange them so that they look halfway decent. Let's get in a little bit closer just to make sure that we are on the same page here, just like that. Then we're going to pick up a 15O. We're going to go back through the crystal, just like this. And I'm going to hold on to it. Everything loosens up a little, that's okay. Pull that 15O down, make sure it's where I want it to be. Pick up another 15O. Go into the opposite side of the 8O that we started in. Oops, I'm sorry. Let's get back in camera here. It's the same thing I've been doing before, just pulling my embellishment down, just like that. Now, I am going to just flip it over, bring my thread over to this side, and I'm going to go through the embellishment, and you can go through the embellishment on that side too, but I like to bring it around because it kind of gives more of a tightening effect and keeps everything more secure. So now I'm coming out of this 8O, and I'm going to go into this 15O, down into this crystal, and then into the 15O diagonal. And like I said, you don't have to go diagonal, but I just do, just like that. Pull this through, tighten it up, make sure everything has great tension, looks tight, and then go into the 8O on the bottom here. And let's make one more unit. So we're coming out of this 8O, pick up two 15Os, and then pick up your purple bead. Pick up two 15Os, and pick up your silver bead. Two 15Os, pick up your purple 8O, and two 15Os. Come here, like this. And then we're going to go into the opposite side, make our circle. Sew through the circle again. Oops, just stabbed my finger. And then we're going to go into these here. I'm just sewing around the circle. Again. And then go into this 8O we're attached to. Here. Pull it tight, make sure there's good tension. Pick up a 15O. Pick up a crystal, pick up a 15O, and then go directly into the 8O on the opposite side here. So we're going to go into this one, right here. I'm going to pull this down, pull that on top, push it down. Then I'm going to pick up a 15O, go back through that crystal, right here. I'm holding on to it so I can bring it down and tighten it. And then our last one is where we'll get our good position and tension. So pick up a 15O, go back into the 8O that you're attaching to, and pull this tight, just like that. Now, I'm going to turn it over, do the other side, get in close so that you can see. Turn this over. Make sure I have good tension on that last embellishment on the other side. Bring my thread over, pick up a 15O, a rondelle crystal, and a 15O, and then go into the 8O on the opposite side, on the same side of the 8O, which we're coming out of, the 8O we're coming out of. Just like that. Pick up a 15O, go into the crystal, Pull this down. Now I do multiple units, so if there's one unit that you don't see something I did or I got in your way or something like that, you can always watch several of the units being made. That way, whatever you missed on one, you'll pick up on another. They're the exact same units. Pick up a 15-0, go through the 8-0s. Pull that tight, just like that. Now I'm going to turn it over, bring my thread over to this side. I'm just gently rearranging it, and I'm going to go through this 15-0 on this embellishment, the crystal, and the 15-0 diagonal, like this. It's just easier to get through than sewing through the base unit. Just like this. Pull through. Go through this 8-0. Let's put on one more crystal, and then we'll go to length off camera. So what we're going to do now to put on our big crystal is we're going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead. We back off, slide through that crystal, pick up an 8-0 in the purple, an 8-0 in the silver, an 8-0 in the purple, just like this, or whatever colors you're using, of course. And then go through that cube right there. Hold on to the cube, pull your thread through, and pull those beads up so that they form like a little picot. And then pick up an 8-0 and go through the opposite side of the bead you started it. So we've got an 8-0 here. We're coming out of the crystal. We're just going to ignore that purple 8-0. We're going to pick up a purple 8-0, and then we're going to go into the silver 8-0 we're attaching to on the opposite side from which we started. Just like this. And that's what that should look like. And we're going to sew back through this entire unit. So we're going to come out of the 8-0 we're in, into the 8-0 above the cube, through the cube, into the 8-0 on the other side of the cube. Straight through. Then we're going to pass through this sticking out bead right here. And then come through the 8-0, the cube, and the 8-0 beneath it on the other side from which we started. Pull. Go into this 8-0 right here. Now we're going to go down through the purple bead again, the cube, and a purple bead on this side. Make sure you come through one of the beads as you come through the crystal. It takes a little manipulation, but it's a lot easier than trying to get underneath those beads as you come out. I just want to arrange everything so that my beads are sitting properly, and then I'm going to go through this one. And then again, you start your next units like these. So back up to this point and do this section again through the entire thing, the entire length, until you get a good feel for it and you don't need direction anymore. But go ahead and continue doing this until you have 5 crystals placed with 6 of your little ropey type units in between. Or 6 sections anyway, not just 6 units. So you want 6 sections of your rope units and 5 beads. Now this right now is about a 7.5 inch bracelet. Normally I only use I want to finish with 7.5 inches, but because of the bulk of these beads that I'm using, they're 10 millimeter beads, they're big, they take up room on my wrist, I'm going a 1/2 inch bigger than I normally would. So with my clasping, it'll give me 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch, something like that, depending on the size of my clasping. So you want to make sure that you are to the length that your wrist normally is, and then put your clasping on. So if you normally make a 6 inch, then you're going to make a 6 inch, not a 5 inch, and put your clasping on. Does that make sense? I hope. So There's also 6 of these cubes in the treasure bag, and the ones I sell online, there's 6. So if you have a bigger wrist, go ahead and put another cube and another 2 units like this on, and you will have a larger bracelet. If you're smaller, of course, just leave this portion off and end. You want to end on a unit with your little round ropey type units. You do not want to end on a cube. Otherwise, your clasping will not work correctly. So when you adjust your length, just make sure that you end on some of these units. Now say this is about right for you, but you need just a little bit more length. You can make 3 of these round units here to give yourself a little bit more length. So that will help too, instead of having to make a whole cube and then 2 more sections. So you may have to modify a little bit to get the length you want. Right now, this is 7.5 inches, and that's where I want to be for mine. So I'm going to start putting on my clasping on this end now. So I'm going to bring you down here, and I've made my last unit. I'm coming out of my 8/0 here, and I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other side. I'm going to pick up an 11/0 now, and then I'm going to pick up an 8/0. So I'm using my purple 8/0, and I'm going to drop this down. So I've got 11/0 and an 8/0, and then I go through my clasp. And then I'm going to go through this 8/0 right here, pick it up and just pull my thread through and bring this down, just like that. Then I'm going to pick up another 11/0, and I'm going to go through the 8/0 I'm attaching to right here. Let me get you in close. I'll pick this up, make sure I stay in camera here, and I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 8/0 from which I started, right there. So this is what you have, just like this. Now we're going to sew through this twice, just like I showed you on the other end. Sew up through the 11/0, the 8/0, through the clasping, down the 8/0, into the 11/0, and back into the bead you started in. Do that 2 more times, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have secured my clasping, and now I don't have a whole lot of thread left, so I'm hoping I have enough to knot up. I'm just going to sew down into my unit a little bit, find some places where there's thread bridges, and tie my thread off. So I'm coming out of the 8/0 from which I started here, right here, the one I attached to. I'm going to get you close. You can see, make sure everything's tight, and you can see a little thread bridge right under here, right between the 15/0s and the 8/0 here. I'm going to try to go under it without grabbing the threads for my embellishment that's on top. Just go through the base units. Thread bridge right there. And I'm going to pull this through and make a loop, go through my loop, and pull a knot down right there. That's the clearest place. And then I'm going to go through the base unit here. And then down into the 15/0s and the 8/0 that is attaching this unit here, in between the units. And I'm going to tie a knot again, right where this 8/0 and these 15/0s are, right in between. I'm going to go underneath this little thread bridge right here. Make a little loop, go through it, pull that down in between the beads, and then I will sew again through the 15/0, the 11/0 here, through the 15/0s here, and the 8/0. And I'm just going to cut this off and burn it down. So I'm just going to cut it right here. Make sure that you don't burn anything but the little tag here. I'm going to get close and just melt that in there best I can. Thread zapper actually gets you closer, and I hope I was out at camera. I hope you saw that. Anyway, you know what I did. I just basically burnt down the little tag a little bit. And now I am going to kind of polish up my piece because I've got my lotions and everything, my fingerprints all over it. And I'm going to come back and put it on and show you exactly what we've got here. And here it is on the wrist, and it's all spiffied up, looks great. And you can see this turned out to be about an 8-inch bracelet, and normally I would go 7.5 inches, no bigger than that for my wrist. However, because of the bulkiness of the cubes, I went a little bit bigger. So go to the length you normally would make your bracelet finished with the clasping on. Go to that length and then put your clasping on, and it'll work just fine if you're using the big beads. Now, of course, if you've modified this and you're using small beads, then, or smaller than this, then you're also going to have to take that into consideration and just make it an inch short of your regular length, and then put your clasping on. But this is what this looks like. It turned out really, really pretty. I mean, just really pretty. Let me show you the clasping. There it is. And this could conceivably be a nice necklace too. You could go like 4 of these units in between each one, and then attach chain on the back. So like make more units here, attach your chain on the back of it, and make a pretty necklace. That would be really pretty. So that's what that looks like. And I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.